Hi there and welcome to CVG's Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2 preview special. It's a lot of words. I'm joined by Dan Dawkins and Tim Weaver.
Hello.
And we're about to hear from official PlayStation Magazine's Deputy Editor Joel Gregory, who's just gone hands-on with the game over in LA and he's going to tell us what he made of it.
Hi there, welcome back to E3 2013, where I'm joined by official PlayStation Magazine's Deputy Editor Joel Gregory, who has been to see Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2 today. Joel, what's it like?
It's really good. I'm a massive fan of the first game. I think it's one of the best in its genre, in fact probably the best in its genre on current generation, and really excited to go hands-on with this one. Played a section quite near the start of the game, so for those who don't know, spoiler alert, you are revealed to be Dracula at the end of the first game. This time you sort of wake up as Dracula, and so I played a small section at the beginning, after which you're stripped of all your powers, and that's when you go to the sort of modern world hub, which is a sort of quite kind of an open world structure as opposed to a slightly more linear chapter based of the last game. But so I did the section preceding that, which was an enormous Titan battle.
Fantastic. And how did it look? I remember obviously the big battles and the overall graphical fidelity of the previous game was fantastic. Now obviously this is running on PS3 as well. How does it look?
It looks really good. I wouldn't say it's a massive step up from the previous game, but one thing they really have nailed is the sense of scale and scope. So I was climbing this Titan, which isn't using QTEs anymore. It's all free climbing, very Shadow of the Colossus style. And there's loads of stuff going on around you. You can see for miles in the distance there's a huge war being waged at ground level. It's massive, and it looks great. It really gives you that sense of you're involved in something epic.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds really exciting, Joel. More on Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 and more games from E3 2013 as when we get it.
So it sounds like Joel was quite a fan of the series there, and he seems to like what's going on in the sequel. Are you boys interested in this?
Yeah, I'm excited by it. I think the first game was, it wasn't even underrated. People played it and were surprised by how good it was. I mean, it really did mishmash a lot of what that genre does well, wrapped up with brilliant graphics, quite an exciting story. Famous now for its big twist, which Joel's massively spoiled if you haven't played it. But, that was a real shock, and it was a big, deep adventure game, like a sort of 17-hour game, and it was a good journey with lots of variety.
It's an example, I guess, of a few of the big Japanese publishers have tried reaching out to using Western studios to make games that cater for the kind of the Western gamer. And Castlevania was one of those franchises that had sort of fallen on hard times. Do you feel like it's been rehabilitated now? Would you go so far as to say it's kind of like an A-list game now, Tim? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of retained a fairly good reputation on. I think the 3DS version was quite good, wasn't it? But on the Big Daddy consoles, it's been pretty bad for a long time until Lords of Shadow. It's interesting that when they gave it to Mercury Steam, it was all like, ooh, because they made that Jericho, didn't they? Which was all a bit average. But they made such a stellar job of Lords of Shadow that people are suddenly super excited about the sequel. And it, from what Joel's saying, it sounds like they sort of retained all the stuff that made it great, but just kind of refined some of the edges.
Do you guys think that? I mean, in the absence of The Last Guardian, which had a similar kind of, I mean, I know they're not. The Last Guardian was never. Well, who knows what The Last Guardian was bloody going to be other than the cat, dog, bird.
It was unlikely to be a vampire-based open world game.
No, but he referenced Shadow of Colossus, which had that incredible scale of enemy type thing. And I guess there's not many other games doing that sort of thing. No, that's probably not fair to say, is it? What I'm trying to say is there's no God of War. That genre is kind of, there's an open playing field for them to cement a place in it.
There's not much playing into it right now, I think, especially because Castlevania, perhaps unusually, is like a current gen game. It's PS3, so you can't forget that as excited as we all are about PS4 and Xbox One, they're still 6 months away, and there's only going to be a very small handful of people to buy them, relatively, at the start. So for the millions who own the current gen consoles, we'll be looking around for big games.
But are you surprised, though, that this isn't a cross-generation of game? I mean, it was certainly the last one made quite a bit of play out of having some exciting visuals in terms of the scale. And that. It seems like something that would be suited to that. But Konami have been, Metal Gear 5 aside, perhaps a bit slow on the uptake. Like, there's no PES Next Gen this year either.
I don't know if they're resourced at a level where they can afford to commit to two versions at once, or they're just scared of not making it look sufficiently better. But it's exactly like you say. I would expect Castlevania, because it's famous for its great graphics, big open world. And they have improved the graphics. Like now, it's got a free roaming 3D camera, not fixed angles, but it's still rooted in the current world. And I really wanted to see it in a. We've taken that game we loved at the end of the last gen, we're bringing it to the start of the current gen, and it looks sensational. And you want it to be jaw-dropping, and maybe the way games like The Division, like bringing things on with next gen graphics.
I mean, what you might find with Castlevania, and you might actually find with a lot of games, is that they follow up with a PC version at some time later down the line, and at the same time, they transfer it across to Xbox One and PS4.
GTA.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah, right, absolutely. I think that's the expectation with something like GTA 5 is that will happen next year.
What do you think of the main rivals for Castlevania? I guess in that space there's probably Bayonetta 2 on Wii U, big bosses and kind of quick combos and...
Yeah, if next gen games, are there many in that combat bracket yet? Open world combat bracket?
Well, we've seen. I mean, the thing you got to worry about with Bayonetta 2 is who's going to play it. I mean, unless Wii U has an absolutely stellar Christmas. I mean, Bayonetta. Let's be honest, Bayonetta wasn't the biggest seller in the world.
No, there's a reason it's
understatement, Claxon.
Yeah, so.
I mean, that was the worry off the back of the Nintendo conference generally, wasn't it? Is that I know some of the more Nintendo-focused colleagues we have here were saying, don't worry, they're going to come out with a 3D Mario, they're going to show another Zelda, and it's going to be a great Christmas lineup. But it felt like a bunch of stuff got shifted to 2014. Poor old Iwata-san had to do the saddest of sad bows again. I don't know if I can watch another bowing apology on a Nintendo Direct. It's too depressing.
It's too sad.
Yeah, it's... Sorry, Dan. I was just going to say...
All I wanted to say was, I think actually what Konami have done quite well is to take something that was getting quite dusty and Fausty, reinvented it quite confidently. And it's something they could do with other properties they've got. Let's say Contra. They could take that on and do something exciting with it. And again, it's something they spectacularly failed to do with a Silent Hill. Like, could they take Silent Hill into the next gen and do it properly?
Well, they definitely could. I mean, Silent Hill seems to be one of the great tragedies overstating it, but just that, I think a lot of the reason why that we haven't seen a good new Silent Hill is because that team was allowed to break up for kind of strange political reasons when you speak to insiders at Konami. And
the understanding I've got of that is that it's not a case of they didn't try to bring the team back together. It was like the members of the Beatles wouldn't be in the same room together. So I think it was just a no-go. I think
but in the same way that Capcom rebooted Resi 4, I mean, I guess they had to bring back Mikami to do it and then let it go back to being rubbish again. Rubbish is too strong. But
you talked earlier about how some of these Japanese publishers have outsourced stuff to Western developers. Well, Silent Hill's a perfect example of when it can go wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, they've given it to a succession of Western developers who haven't made the best.
Too fearful, I think, of changing enough. They tend to make kind of their retreads, aren't they? Yeah. Really.
And Konami can't keep bringing out Kojima like the master puppeteer to save everything. Like, because when they brought out Castlevania, they sort of insulated with Kojima's involvement, where he cut some trailers. He was like the master hand behind it. Now this new one is just Dave Cox and Mercury Steam.
Who would be your dreams? I'm dropping this on you now. This question: who would be your dream studio to reboot Silent Hill? See, it's hard, this game development. Like, stay with us for the rest of the week. We'll have plenty more videos from E3, and don't forget to click subscribe.
I've got it.